Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to tackle procrastination?
Always happy to talk about everyone's favorite pastime.
Huh. Right. So we're diving deep into the research today. Got a whole stack of articles here. We're talking the nature of procrastination, even the Pomodoro technique.
Sounds like we've got all our bases covered.
Exactly. We want to figure out, is putting things off always such a bad thing? One article called it a self-regulatory failure. Kind of harsh, don't you think?
Self-regulatory failure. Well, that does sound a tad dramatic.
Right. I mean, who hasn't pushed a deadline a time or two?
True, true. Though, in a way, it does make sense. Think about it this way. Self-regulation is all about managing, like your emotions, your thoughts, even just your behavior, so you can actually reach a goal.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going.
So self-regulatory failure, that's that gap between what we want to do and what we actually end up doing. Like, we know we should be working on that presentation, but next thing you know, we're scrolling through social media. It happens.
Oh, tell me about it. Happens to the best of us. Speaking of definitions, though, one article, this was Piers Steele's work, back in 2007, defined procrastination as voluntarily delaying a task, even though you know there'll probably be negative consequences.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's not just about, like, being lazy. It's knowing there might be consequences,
Right.
but you still choose to delay.
Right. It's that disconnect between what we should be doing and what we end up doing. It can really throw you off. And actually, there's some research on this. The short-term impact of procrastination.
Ooh, tell.
A study by Tice and Baumeister back in '97 found that procrastinators, believe it or not, often experience lower stress levels.
Wait, really? You're saying putting things off actually makes you less stressed, at least at first?
For a little while, yeah.
So kind of nice, actually.
Well, here's the catch. It's temporary. That procrastination-induced calm, it comes with a price. Big time. Later on, those stress levels, they skyrocket way more than if you hadn't procrastinated at all.
So you're just delaying the inevitable crash.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, that whole cycle, delaying, stressing it, impacts your health long term. Not good.
So it's not just in our heads, there are actual physical consequences.
Oh yeah, the stress itself is a huge factor, obviously. But there's also research, this was Fuchsia Sirah in 2015, linking chronic procrastination with heart disease, high blood pressure, all that fun stuff.
Wow. Okay, so not just a little stress headache then.
Nope. And it's not just the delay itself, you see, it's the guilt, the self-blame, that constant feeling of being overwhelmed. All of that takes a toll, mentally and physically.
Okay, so far, procrastination sounding like the villain in this story.
Yeah.
But what about those people who thrive under pressure? The type pull all-nighters, how get amazing results. Is it possible procrastination in some form might actually be beneficial?
You might be onto something there. It's not always so black and white. There's this 2005 study by Chu and Choi. They actually dug into this whole thriving under pressure thing. Turns out there are two kinds of procrastinator.
Two kinds. Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Yeah. They call them passive and active procrastinators.
So the passive ones, that's like the classic image, right?
Yeah.
Drowning in to-do lists, missing every deadline.
Yep, pretty much. But the active procrastinators, they're different. They're choosing to work under pressure. It's intentional.
So not just letting things pile up. There's like a method to the madness.
Right. They're not just victims of circumstance. It's more like a deliberate strategy.
Huh. Interesting. So less about being disorganized, more about working best under pressure.
Yeah.
Honestly, kind of makes sense.
And what's fascinating is, even though they delay, these active procrastinators, they often have good planning skills, good time management.
Wait, really? That doesn't seem very procrastinatory.
I know, right? But that's what Chu and Choi found. They're not necessarily disorganized. They just operate best in that environment, that pressure cooker scenario.
Huh. So it's more like they're strategic about it. Is that where the high self-efficacy comes in? You mentioned that before, but to be honest, not totally sure I follow.
Oh, you're right. I should explain that better. Self-efficacy, it just means like how much you believe in your ability to get stuff done.
Okay, so someone with high self-efficacy, they're like, yeah, I got this. Bring on the challenge.
Exactly. And active procrastinators, they tend to have a lot of it. They might delay, but they're also confident. They know they can get it done, even under pressure.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like they're playing a high-stakes game, but they know they have the skills to win. Even if it's down to the wire, maybe that's part of the appeal, pushing boundaries, succeeding. Could that actually boost their confidence even more?
It's definitely possible. That sense of accomplishment, overcoming a challenge, even a self-imposed one, it can be a huge motivator for some people.
Okay, I'm starting to see the upside here.
Yeah.
But for those of us who aren't wired that way, And I'm guessing that's a lot of listeners. Any tips from the research?
Yeah.
How do we manage this procrastination beast, regardless of our procrastination style?
Well, one thing we found, Mina and Dryden's work on cognitive behavioral therapy, highlights this break down those big tasks. Smaller, more manageable steps.
Classic divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Makes it less scary to start, right? Better than staring down a mountain of work.
Yeah.
But then, how do we actually stay focused?
Yeah.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, because breaking things down, that's only half the battle, right? Then you actually have to, like, focus on the smaller parts, which
Yeah.
easier said than done sometimes.
Tell me about it.
So, any tips? What works for you?
Have you ever tried that Pomodoro technique?
Pomodoro technique. Yeah, actually, I used that to prep for this episode.
Really?
You're kidding.
Yeah, no, seriously. I get sidetracked so easily, but those little sprints,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of amazing. Way less intimidating than like a whole afternoon of work. Plus, knowing a break's coming helps me power through.
I'm so glad you said that, because Francesco Cirillo, he's the one who came up with the Pomodoro technique. He talks about that in his book.
Does he really?
Yeah. He's all about those built-in rewards. You're basically training your brain to focus, right?
Interesting.
It's like tricking yourself into being productive. And honestly, sometimes those little brain hacks, we need them.
We really do.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's be real. Sometimes, even the best laid plans, right? You hit a wall, procrastination wins.
Yeah.
What about that moment when you're beating yourself up for not getting stuff done? Any advice from the research on dealing with that?
Oh, that's so important. That negative self-talk, it can really send you into a spiral. And it happens to everyone. It's okay.
Right.
Actually, Shira, we talked about her earlier, the heart health stuff, she researched this too, back in 2014. Turns out self-compassion is huge.
So instead of dwelling on all the shoulda, coulda, woulda stuff,
Yeah.
you got to be nicer to yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that you're human. Everyone procrastinates. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would a friend.
Right.
Because that self-criticism, it just makes things worse.
Well,
Feeds the procrastination monster,
yeah.
right? But self-compassion, that gives you the space to actually change.
I like that. It's like you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right?
Exactly. Kindness is way more motivating than being your own worst enemy.
Totally. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. From procrastination potentially being, bad for your heart,
Important stuff.
to the idea that, hey, maybe some people are wired to work best under pressure.
Fascinating stuff.
And of course, all those tips for taming the procrastination beast, breaking things down, the Pomodoro technique.
It's all about finding what works for you.
Exactly. There's no one right way.
Right. And that's the beauty of it, Procrastination, it looks different for everyone. So much of it is about understanding your own style, trying different strategies, and being kind to yourself along the way.
I love that, being kind to yourself. So, listeners, next time procrastination comes knocking, remember, it's not a personal failing.
Nope, just part of being human.
Exactly. Figure out what kind of procrastination you're dealing with. Try those strategies we talked about. And be kind to yourselves.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Maybe even ask yourselves, what does my procrastination style say about what really matters to me? Something to ponder.
Ooh, I like that. Something to think about. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive on procrastination. Big thanks to our expert for joining us.
My pleasure, as always.
And to all of you listening, thanks for being here. Catch you next time.